I don't have a lot of memories of Dwight from my childhood. He was a presence, a tall man who came and went but didn't say a whole lot. He was our doctor. So when we would go down to Corpus for our summer trips to see my grandparents, we would also have our annual physical, and we hated it. So growing up, Dwight was really more our doctor than our uncle. Sometime in his later years, he came to know Jesus, and that changed him. And through our mom, his sister Joan, we came to know him in a different way. It was like he had this shell around him that was breaking away. We started going on yearly or bi-yearly trips to the North Carolina mountains. I remember the first time we went, it was to Blowing Rock. My son was 3 or 4 years old, and he and Dwight played tag out in the front yard. It was so cool. This man that I had known as this quiet presence was out there chasing my 3-year-old around an old oak tree. After my mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2001, Dwight's role changed again. He became support, medical advisor, even counselor to all of us. He knew enough to know that mom's situation was not hopeful, but he didn't let on. He was always there for us. Years earlier, he had talked to Mom and Sarah and me about the walk to Emmaus. I remember sitting in a burger joint, again in Blowing Rock, and I asked him, just tell me what happens on the walk. Help me to understand what it's about so that I can decide whether I want to do it or not. He got quiet and he got teary, and he paused and he said, I can't explain it. About a year or so later, I went on the walk, and it changed my life. I saw Jesus. I literally saw him more than once on that weekend. In the final service, Dwight and Dottie were there to celebrate communion with all of us. And as we were singing, Here I Am, Lord, I saw Dwight and Dottie out in the congregation. And on their faces, I saw a supernatural joy just radiating out from them. And I saw Jesus. And I knew at that moment that he was real and that everything that was written about him was true. And that I too could know that joy and that peace. Because of Dottie and Dwight, I came to trust in Jesus that weekend. In 2007, Dottie and Dwight came to France, my husband's home country, to visit us in his hometown, and we knew things weren't quite right. He commented multiple times each day about how green everything was. And there were moments when he just wasn't completely there. He wasn't present to the conversation. But there were also moments when he was completely Dwight. One of them, he and I were sitting in the kitchen of our little efficiency apartment, and we were talking about Mom's death. I can't remember everything that we said, but I remember the comfort of sharing that pain and that experience with someone who got it. He knew the pain because he missed her and grieved her passing as much as I did. And that was a blessing to me. And he also reassured me that everything that could have been done medically was done. That she lived as long and as well as it was possible for her to live with her cancer. And that was peace. That was also the last relatively normal interaction that I had with Dwight. I saw him several times after that, but I was never quite sure he knew who I was. But I was always sure who he was. Unlike a couple of other people that I have known who had Alzheimer's, Dwight stayed Dwight for a long time. The most telling evidence of this was his terrible sense of humor that we all adored. His puns were brutal, usually followed by groans and courtesy laughter. But what was so wonderful what was so memorable, what was so much a part of who Dwight was the look on his face when he delivered them. That smile, that smirk, that twinkle in those blue eyes that reminded me so much of Mom's. That was Dwight. I can see that face still. And I will miss that face always, at least until I see it again on the other side of the veil. I love you, Uncle Dwight.